historically, over the years, the Tourette's community had felt like they haven't had the level of respect that most people have. They've been invited to appear on TV shows or radio shows or do interviews, and essentially they realized that they were there for a cheap joke, that that was how the condition was viewed. And he told me some really awful stories and experiences, and I said, okay, I want to do whatever I can to reassure you that this isn't going to be one of those. In fact, the opposite.
I always love to go back to the beginning and ask, what was your first job sort of in the film or TV business?
I went to film school when I was 18. Left when I was 21. I went to London. I worked for a TV commercials production company as a runner, driving cans of film around Soho. Then I was a second assistant film editor, then a first assistant film editor. And because I'd been to film school, I carried on making my own films, and in particular commercials, actually TV commercials in my own time. And I won a couple of competitions with those. And then I was asked if I wanted to direct TV commercials full time, which I did for a while. And then around about 95, I was doing well with commercials, but I was just a bit bored. I really wanted to work on a drama or a short film. And I wrote a short film, which was called Waking Ned Devine. And I then...
Yeah, he's that guy.
Exactly. And people read the short film. And they said, are you sure this isn't a full-length feature film? It's a really strong idea. And I said, I was pretty unambitious. I was driven, but I said, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I spent another few years on it, and it became Waking Ned Devine, the feature film. And that was the first film that I wrote and directed.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I did Nanny McPhee, and then I did Everybody's Fine, and a few others.
Yeah. For you?
Mine answer is much shorter. I knew I was an actor.
It's because you're younger.
I played Bugsy Malone when I was 5. What was I? I've been, I don't know, 8, 9 years old. Cavendish Primary School in Hull, where I grew up. And when I did that play when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to act. This is what I want to do.
Was it that moment, like your first time on stage and the life taking?
Yeah, I used to also mimic my teachers a lot. I really enjoyed doing that, and impersonation things. So yeah.
A lot of actors start off as class clowns and mimics, I hear. Well, again, congratulations on a fantastic movie. Kirk, you mentioned some of the movies you've made before, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is your first foray into a real-life subject.
Yeah, this is my first biopic, and I loved it, if I'm honest with you. When I've written other films, which are fiction, I have to invent everything, every character, every subplot, the setting, the locations. On this occasion, I went and sat with John Davidson for a number of days, and I just listened. And I encouraged him to talk about every single story he could remember, every experience which was related to Tourette's or not related to Tourette's. I took those away, and I wanted to put them all in a document, which was effectively a film script, but I knew it would be too long. It's about 200 pages, and that was okay because I knew that I was going to start editing and cutting it down. But I really liked it. Yeah, I liked the biopic. It was easier for me to listen and to convert a story into a film.
And this is how I learned Nanny McPhee isn't real.
No, Nanny McPhee is a true story.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
And Robert, you have portrayed real people before. I think one of your first jobs was the founder of Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
How does it change the process? Do you enjoy having something to draw from?
I just think that it's like when you see a new character that you're going to play, there's always different tools that are available to you. And I was lucky on this one that one of them was John Davidson.
Yeah.
So I just spent as much time with him as I could and learned as much as I could from it. But yeah, I think every time it's different, isn't it?
Was this your first time being able to interact with your subject? I hope you didn't meet the guy who played in Mindhunter, serial killer.
No.
Yeah. Was this your first time getting to interact with the subject?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And it was, but it was, I don't know, it didn't really feel like that because it even though that's exactly what it was. Yeah. But it was like, it just very quickly I became very close, and it was really easy between us. And I spent a lot of time with him, just asking him questions, hanging out with him, and stuff like that. So yeah.
What was that first meeting like? Like, are you nervous? It's almost like kind of a blind date in some ways.
I was really nervous, but then literally it just dissipates within seconds that you meet John. You know, it didn't take very long for me to really feel quite passionately about telling his story. So yeah, it goes very quite quickly with John.
And for you, I believe John was involved with the entire process. You brought him on as executive producer. Why was it important to have his involvement throughout the film?
I think within about 10 minutes meeting John, he felt the need to say that historically over the years, the Tourette's community had felt like they hadn't had the level of respect that most people have. They've been invited to appear on TV shows or radio shows or do interviews, and essentially they realized that they were there for a cheap joke, that that was how the condition was viewed. And he told me some really awful stories and experiences. Young people with Tourette's, older people with Tourette's, and I said, okay, I want to do whatever I can to reassure you that this isn't going to be one of those. In fact, the opposite. I promised him that I would tell a truthful and honest story about his life and his condition. And I said, I will make you an executive producer. And he said, well, what does that really entail? What does it mean? And I said, it means that you will have a voice, and it means that you will be listened to. And I promise you, I will send you every 20 pages of the script. I will consult with you, or I will keep you updated on casting. Even when I finish the film, the first cut, I promise I'll show you, and I'll put it on a big screen. And you tell me if I've got anything wrong, especially tonally, because there's a lot of humor in the film, and there's a lot of emotion, and there's some drama and tragedy. And I knew that was probably the biggest challenge with the whole project. And I said, tell me, And I don't think there was a single note on the script pages that I gave him other than him correcting me on things like, that wasn't the drugs that I was on, that's the wrong year, I met Tommy before I did this. So it was kind of facts and figures. And also when I showed him the final film, he was absolutely thrilled. Yeah. I mean, really, really thrilled.
I know there's been documentaries about the Kelly story, but were you familiar with John Davidson at all? And before the script came your way, because it's one of those things that's like you're only there a second of a name, but also like life is stranger than fiction. You read these stories and you wonder if they can be true, and you find out the truth is even weirder.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of the documentaries at all, but I think that was a good thing, because it meant that I just got to read this script and meet Kirk before I, sort of fell in love with the story and John and stuff. So it was just, I think it was a useful thing actually to not know the documentaries, but they were great documentaries, and they were so useful and a great tool for all of us.
And you mentioned before there wasn't an audition for this. I've heard some actors say that they actually prefer to audition because then everyone knows what they're bringing to the role. I can't imagine the pressure you felt taking on a role like this, but also how did you know it was the right fit? What would that mean like?
I won't bore you with the details of the finance, but essentially the film was financed in a way where I had complete and total creative freedom, and I've never had that before. It's very, very rare for any director, no matter how accomplished they are, to have that. But I did have that on this occasion, and it meant that when it came to casting, I could do whatever I wanted to do, and that meant look at and cast the people that were right for the roles, instead of being influenced or being asked to cast people who were let's say famous, because on many occasions that's what it falls down to. And I had a really good relationship with the casting director. She mentioned Robert Aramayo. She said you need to meet him, you need to look at him, he's a serious contender. We had a Zoom meeting, then we met up, then I took him to see John in Gareth Shields, and that was a big moment. John thought he was wonderful and was really happy with the idea of him playing him in the film. And I forgot what I was going to say because
Was there
it's 3 o'clock in the morning for me because I flew in from London. But what was I saying?
Was there a particular performance of his that you knew?
Sorry, yes. So there was a film called Behind Her Eyes, which I saw and I really liked. And I don't think anyone would say, "Oh, that guy should play John Davidson." It's not. It wasn't that easy. Okay, now I remember what I was going to say. We talked about the idea of doing some kind of a screen test, and Rob didn't protest. He made a really good argument. He said, "Look, I can do that if you want me to, but what you're going to get is an impersonation of John Davidson, and that is the last thing that I want to do in this film. I want to understand Tourette's. I want to know what it's like to have Tourette's. I need to understand who John is aside from the Tourette's. Forget the Tourette's." And that's going to take a few months for me to do, and I'm willing to do that work and that research, and then I will show you. And I thought, you know what, this is an occasion where I can trust my own gut without having to listen to notes from financiers, and I feel that he's got a really good point, and I'm very happy to trust him and let him go and let him run with it, and that's what we did. And that's kind of old school, that's how it should be done. But it's very rarely done like this these days.
And I think it's so great for actors to hear that too, because when you're being seen by a casting director, you're not just auditioning for one role. They're gonna remember you down the line. I don't know, it's like how long you've been working with Lauren, how many things she cast you in, but like you never know when you're gonna recommend you for something.
Yeah, you don't. I didn't know Lauren. And so this is the first thing that she's cast me in. And so I just felt really grateful to her, and she's wonderful at her job. I mean, she's just so good, and she's an amazing Tyson as well. So you just never know. I think as an actor, I think sometimes it's better not to know.
So in addition to meeting John, where did you even begin with your preparation?
I wanted to first sort of intellectually trying to understand as much as I could. So reading things, reading books, and watching YouTube videos and watching the documentaries, and first start there, gain as much knowledge as I could, and then really focus on John and spending time in Galashiels, and then travelling throughout Scotland and meeting as many people as I could live with Tourette's. And I met some amazing people and some incredible stories and stuff. And I think whilst I was eventually based in Galashiels and really focused in on John, I think all the other stuff that I did was almost just as useful, really, because it made me understand it from many different angles. Everybody has a different story and a different relationship to it. So it more clearly defined John's story and relationship to it.
It's interesting because this is an independent film, but it's a period piece that covers several years. It looks fantastic, and you have a pretty large cast. What was sort of the secret of pulling this all off on an independent budget?
We had an incredible production designer, Sabrina, and this is only a second film. What I like to do, now and again, if it works out, is have a mix of really, really experienced crew, but also have people who are given a break for the first time. And we had people like Simon Hayes, sound recordist, who is an Oscar-winning sound recordist, has done everything from what's he done? He's done Wicked 1 and 2. He did Les Miserables, the film. That's what he won the Oscar for. And then you have people like Sabrina. It was his second film. James Bland, the cinematographer. This was his first film. But Sabrina, for example, had just come off of another low-budget film. And I was saying, look, we're trying to achieve quite a lot, but we just don't have the money. And she said, that's okay. And I said, things like, the cars, we need cars from the 80s for Capris and Escorts and all that kind of thing. I said, I know that they're really expensive. And she said, well, I'll just do what I did on the last film. And I said, what was that? She said, I went out with the art department and we have flyers and we walk around the town. And if we see a car which is of the right period for our film, we will put a flyer on and literally say, if you want to earn £50 for the day, can you please bring your car and park it in this street and leave us the keys? And people turned up because it's fun and it's movie making, and I thought that is really clever. And so I don't know, I'm guessing now, maybe those cards would normally have been £1,000 a day to go to a specialist, but she just went, stuck a thing on the window, got out, and said, we'll give you £50, and everyone was happy. So it's small things like that, but money was really, really tight, schedule was really, really tight. I felt like I was under a lot of pressure on a daily basis. The weather was very Scottish, which meant that sometimes it's raining, sometimes it was sunny, sometimes raining and sunny within the same 5 minutes, and it was, we couldn't shoot because of continuity. Again, without boring everyone, in order to get that level of creativity, that creative control, my wife and I just sold our house. We put everything on the line. We borrowed more money, and we financed the film 100%. So normally, at any other time in my career, when I'm stood there and it's raining, I'm thinking, well, this is a shame, but someone else's problem. I'm not paying for it, or there's an insurance claim, or there's something going on, and I just sit and have a cup of tea and just wait for the sun to come out again. On this occasion, I found myself counting how many biscuits people were eating, because I knew not only was I not filming, but people were eating biscuits that I was paying for.
Sort of along those lines, knowing how in independent filmmaking and necessity is the mother of all invention, was there anything that you had scripted that you weren't able to do because of time or money, and you had to come up with an alternative that was actually better?
I know what you mean, and it normally is better. I'm just trying to think, on this film, was there anything? And I don't think there was. I really don't think there was. In fact, the opposite. What car, Rob? What car? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I can't remember. No, that was supposed to be outside the community centre. Yeah. No, it didn't matter. That's not a big scene that we
I had an idea,
that's
but it's wrong.
In fact, the opposite. I was very worried about the schedule. I've done this a long time, and you look at each day, and I just kept saying to production, I don't think I can make that day, and I don't think I can make that one or that one. So what we started to do was strip out shots like, John walking down the street, John smoking outside the community centre, John walking with his dog, John crossing the road. We're stripping out shots like that, which were making a lot of days unmakeable. And we asked the crew if they would be kind enough to work in their prep week, when actually they're supposed to be prepping, that's what it is. And they said, yeah, we can do that. Let's have a week of prep. And actually that turned into a great learning experience, in particular, I think, for Rob, but also for me. Because we just got to play. We got to play for about a week. And, whether it was walking down the street, or whether, it was sitting in a car, or leaving the house, or walking down an alleyway, or going into a newsagent's, Rob was able to start to get into the character, and I was able to start to see him and to think about the way in which he was portraying John Davidson.
I was curious about that as an actor. Like, how much does it help you do so much research, but then to be on that set and to have the costumes of the time and the period of the time, and also you're working with a lot of actors who I understood have Tourette's in the film.
Yeah.
How much did that all help to really lock the performance in place?
Yeah, I mean, it's always so useful, all that stuff, It's, and we had a great costume design as well. The Tourette's Community Days were special for so many reasons. And obviously, the biggest one is that, in lots of ways, that was who we were making the movie for. It brought clarity into what we were doing, and they were such amazing people and such incredible stories. So, it was useful and very scary and intimidating as well.
Has there been much, I don't, out here I can only think of one piece of entertainment that ever dealt with Tourette's. It was a long time ago. Has there been much portrayal of it in the UK?
No, not really. I mean, I think it's fair to say that there were 3 documentaries, and those were the documentaries that revolved around John Davidson. But I think the last of those was probably 10 or 15 years ago. I do think you have something here which I was told is really popular, which is Balin Out Loud, which is a TV show, which is a young woman who has Tourette's. That's quite recent here.
Really?
Yeah, but I looked at the figures, and I think it's it's really popular. But so I think there are people in the US who are starting to learn a little bit more about it as well. But hopefully, I know every director says, please go and see our film, but we mean that from an educational point of view as well. Hopefully you felt that the film was entertaining and moving and funny tonight, but at the same time, we really hope that you had a level of understanding and education without it being, painful. And that now, if you see one stretch, you'll be able to understand them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And I know the film has been obviously being so embraced. It's nominated for several BAFTA and BAFTA awards. Robert, you won 2 BAFTA awards. I have to say, in your acceptance speech, you were the only one who looked surprised.
I couldn't believe it. I'm still surprised.
I think the other nominees looked a little bit surprised as well.
I love
Sorry,
that
sir.
you gave a shout out to Ethan Hawke for speaking to your class, and you can see him say that's better than winning.
Oh yeah, I think he minded. Yeah, it was lovely. It was lovely, and it was a dream of mine to meet him. And I was gonna make it my mission to meet him that night and say thank you, but I didn't think it would be in that way. But then I was just up there and I thought, why not? I want to say it. So yeah, I mean, he's an amazing actor, and he speaks. He's so eloquent, and I just think just listening to him speak, you learn stuff.
Yeah. And you're paying that forward now. You're talking to people about acting, and there's probably a lot of actors here tonight. Is there anything that you would want people to know about? This is a very challenging career. You probably have lots of moments where you wonder if it's worth it. What has sustained you?
I just think maybe I just think you've got to. I don't know. I mean, it's something I'm so passionate about, and it's almost sometimes like an obsession, I think. And I think that when you just feel like just in anything in life, if you feel like you've got to do it, then there's power in that, and that's a good thing. You should be doing that.
And speaking of the response, have you been caught off guard by it at all?
But by the level of the response, you always, when you're working on a film like this, people say, did you ever think that it would be received so well? And I can't say no, because, when I go to bed at night and I dream and I do whatever, then this is what you hope will happen for your project, because you and many, many other people have given up months and years of your time to make it happen. But the fact that this seems to be reaching so many people, regular audiences who have no neurodiverse conditions whatsoever, but in addition to that, a neurodiverse community who are sending both of us letters on a daily basis saying, thank you for helping people understand, that there are conditions out there, many of which of them are invisible, which make life really, really difficult for people. And one thing, you over the last few years, I've heard people say things to me, and one of them was, just remember that your normal is not necessarily the same as everybody else's normal. And I thought that was really smart, and just for people to, if this helps people just be a little bit more empathetic, if it helps them have a little bit more time for people who they bump into socially or in the street, who look different to other people. There's another thing that John always says, which is ignore the tics, but not the person. And I think that's a really good thing as well. There's a human being there, and they want to have a chat, and they want to have a laugh, and they want to engage in a conversation. But I think we all grow up, and we sometimes we don't know how to deal with disability or people who are not exactly the same as us, and that's a weakness that we all have. That has nothing to do with the person, the other person. It's to do with us. We have to work a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm. And what's it been like for you as an actor? Because I know there's some roles you play where you just want to get rid of that character, and I feel like John is someone he's literally going to stay with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely, and literally, I mean, he's in our life, isn't he? John. We're all friends, and get to Gala Shield when I can. And, it's an amazing place. They're a great group to hang out with. So yeah, I feel very lucky that it's been being alive.
Well, I want to remind everyone this movie is going to be in theaters next week. Please let everyone know. You get your barcodes and everything. It is such a wonderful movie. I want to thank you for being that great audience. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you everyone. Thank you.